Welcome to MIC 300, Module 3, Study Session 2. The topic is Blood Protozoa Infections Part 1, Malaria. Introduction. In the study session on Introduction to Parasitology, you must have known what protozoans are and that the causative agent of malaria belongs to the class of Sporozoa. Malaria is a very common infectious disease, especially in tropical and subtropical environments. You must have fallen ill from malaria at least once in the last 1 year. In this study session, we shall be discussing in detail some aspects of malaria, including how to prevent the infection. Learning outcomes for study session 2. Number 1. Enumerate on etiological agents of malaria. Number 2. Discuss life cycle. Number 3. Explain pathology of malaria. Number 4. Mention malaria diagnosis. Number 5. Elaborate on malaria control and eradication. Etiological agents of malaria. Malaria is caused by an obligate intracellular protozoan called Plasmodium. The 4 major Plasmodium species that affect man are 1. Plasmodium falciparum, 2. Plasmodium malariae, 3. Plasmodium vivax, 4. Plasmodium ovale. The 5th is a new addition that is zoonotic in origin, called Plasmodium knowlesi, with the natural host being macaques. Life cycle. Plasmodium is one of the protozoans with both sexual and asexual reproduction. The gametocytes are the sexual forms. The mosquitoes pick up the merozoites, microgametocytes and macrogametocytes in the blood during feeding. But the merozoites cannot survive inside the mosquito and therefore easily destroyed. Pathology of malaria. Malaria infection present with varying degree of severity of the disease in the affected individual, and this, on the other hand, is dependent on the species of Plasmodium that is responsible for the infection and clinically described as benign or malignant malaria. Malaria diagnosis. The diagnosis is commonly divided into 2. 1. Clinical diagnosis, which is presumptive and based on symptoms and signs as in clinical features. This is unreliable, and the World Health Organization has discouraged the presumptive diagnosis of malaria. 2. Laboratory diagnosis. This is a definitive and more reliable. This laboratory diagnosis is divided into a microscopic based technique, which can be subdivided into the following. 1. Light microscopy, that is direct light microscopic examination of giza-stained blood film for malaria parasites. It can be thick or thin smear. Malaria control and eradication. Malaria control is defined as the reduction of this disease to prevalence where it is no longer a major public health problem. This carries the implication that the program will never end. Control measures having to be maintained indefinitely by continuous active work. In summary, in this study session, you've learned that 1. Etiological agents of malaria. That malaria is caused by an obligate intracellular protozoan called Plasmodium. In this study session, We've discussed the agents of malaria, the life cycle of Plasmodium, which occurs in the vector, that is female Anopheles, and man, the clinical presentation and complication of malaria, and how to diagnose malaria, and different modality, which is the use of ACTs, malaria prevention, which is directed at vector, especially environmental sanitation, and also global control strategy. Thank you. We've come to the end of this study session.